If there is an electoral incentive effect that leads to greater punitiveness, it is going to just mechanically affect the minority community disproportionately because of that overrepresentation. And so the other paper that I just briefly mentioned is one in which we look at the effect of, there was a very prominent case a few years ago in which an athlete at Stanford was convicted of sexually assaulting someone on the Stanford campus. And the judge, a person by the name of Aaron Persky, imposed a sentence that was widely condemned as being extremely lenient. So I think the statutory maximum was 14 years. I believe the sentence was 6 years, 6 months. And this caused widespread outrage. And as a consequence of that outrage, a professor at Stanford, Michelle Dauber, initiated a campaign which is authorized by the California Constitution to recall the judge. So to have an election in which if the judge lost, the judge would actually be removed from office. So judicial recall elections are something that only occur in a small handful of states. California is one of them. The last time that happened was in 1935. So this was not something that was on the minds of judges. And all of a sudden, the idea that you could be recalled for handing down a lenient sentence, albeit a lenient sentence for an affluent white defendant, who knows what I might be subject to a recall for, when, all of a sudden was very salient on the minds of judges in California. And what CDOC and I document is there was a very large, instantaneous, like the next day, effect of the recall announcement. So we're going to have a recall. We're going to recall Aaron Persky. On the punitiveness of judges that we actually collected data for, not Judge Persky himself, but in 6 California counties. Using our measure of sentencing, it was like a 30% instantaneous increase. And a lot of commentators at the time, legal academics, public defenders, etc., all thought that this is exactly what would happen. It's not that you're going to get a lot of increased punitiveness for white defendants who have been convicted of sexual assault, largely because there aren't very many of those cases. Rather, it's going to propagate throughout other cases, and what we observe is this happening. The effect is largest in non-sexual violent crimes, and rather than create any kind of racial equity, it's going to have exactly the opposite effect, that it's going to be disproportionately borne by minority defendants.
So can I ask about the normative interpretation? So